All right, let's try this again. So this is a short video about an algebra question I asked to Kent Hovind, knowing that it would stump him and prove that he is a fraud when he claims to have taught algebra for 15 or 20 or whatever the ridiculous number of years he's claiming. This is some very strong evidence that the actual number of years is 0. So the story of what happened real quick, because I think it got cut off in the previous attempt. So I watched 2 debates with Kent Hovind in them. The first one was, they were both with Joe the Kentucky Atheist. This one's on his Rumble channel and the other one on the new Let's Debate channel by Let's Farm. Both of the debates, there was a Q&A section. In the first debate on his Rumble channel where he debated Joe, again, he claimed that he taught algebra for 12 or 15 years. The number's always fluctuating, going up and getting larger. But because he asked that, and because I've always strongly suspected that no, Kent Hovind has not taught algebra at all, I asked him a algebra question, and he couldn't even read it. He couldn't even read the formula. So he made a bunch of excuses, as did the mods, and then they banned me. And then he came out of his echo chamber and he did a debate on Let's Farm's channel. And the mod kind of butchered the question a little bit, but once again, he couldn't even read it, made some excuses up not to answer it. And I think it's a great question to prove that he's a fraud and liar when he claims to have taught algebra. So I'm going to explain it real quick right now at 2:37 in the morning with no preparation or anything whatsoever, no script or anything, nothing except my handy dandy portable whiteboard and my red marker. So the question was, and it's a great question, I asked him simply, what is this? If you can read that, that says, can you not read that? It's backwards. Dang it, what the heck? Why is it looking backwards? I see I have 1 or 2 viewers. Are you guys able to read that? Somebody sound off in the chat. Can you? It's looking backwards to me on my StreamYard window. Sorry, I'm going to freeze and wait for somebody in the chat to tell me if they can read that. I actually have 2 people watching. That's fair, Regios. He didn't pull it up on screen, but can you read it? Or is it backwards? Gosh. That doesn't tell me if you can read it. Can you here, let me just a word. Can you read it, or is that looking backwards for you? Because that's looking backwards for me. I'm seeing the N in front of the C. Okay, so you can't. All right, good. That's all that matters. Okay. This is what happened before. Is the stream kept going on. I don't know why. It's not using hardly any bandwidth. Anyways, this says a squared plus b squared squared. That's that actually at least be able to read formula. And why it's such a good question to stump Kent Hovind and prove that he's a fraud and a liar who has never taught algebra is that there's many good answers to this question. For instance, he could have named some of the vocabulary for what this is. He could have said, "Oh, that's a binomial," or that's a polynomial. That's a exponential binomial. That's an exponential polynomial. That's an exponential equation. You know, there's so many answers he could have given for, okay, it's lagging, but we have good audio. Then I'm just going to power through it because you'll be able to get the images of the math at least enough that you'll understand why it outs him as a fraud. So what was saying? Oh yeah, it outs him as a fraud because he could have just given like 40 different terminology answers that would have been sufficient enough to know he had to show he had some knowledge of algebra, right? But a real algebra teacher able to actually do some number crunching and solve some of the problems. Probably been impressive and maybe showed that he maybe somewhat taught algebra as if he had been able to answer that it also this. And that would be read a squared plus b squared times a squared plus b squared. You're just expanding the exponential form of the equation into a non-exponential form where you've got all the terms that are being multiplied up into an expression that expresses that you're taking the equation within the parentheses and multiplying it by itself. And if he was really an algebra teacher, he could go the whole way and actually solve it, because this one, even though it looks kind of complicated, it's actually really fairly easy to solve. And I'm going to solve it for you right now. And here's the answer. So this would read a to the fourth power plus 2a squared b squared plus b to the fourth power. And why that's so easy to solve, and this is really interesting and probably something, again, that somebody who taught algebra for 15, 20, whatever number of years should know, is that binomial exponential equations follow a predictable pattern that's really interesting. You can draw it almost like a castle of numbers, and the higher the exponent, the more terms there are in the final equation, and the bigger the exponents within the equation get. And this is kind of what the pattern looks like. So for instance, you can see how this equation here fit the second level here. A to the fourth plus 2. You start with 1. It's 1. It's the a to the squared times itself added. So you only have the number here tells you the coefficient of the term, and then you figure out the term by actually just doing a little multiplying, or adding, rather, in this case. A to the fourth with the coefficient of 1. So it's just a to the fourth. Coefficient refers to a term outside. So here the coefficient is 2. 2a squared b squared. This tells us the coefficient. This is because if you actually broke it all out, you would end up with a squared plus a squared b squared plus a squared b squared, or b squared a squared, because you're just multiplying it there again, plus b to the fourth. But then you just condense your 2a squared b squareds to 2a squared b squared, because we've got this handy little tool to show us the coefficient. So Kent Hovind didn't know any of that. He didn't even know that this is a binomial, an exponential binomial, all that fun. Answer the question and dive in because he's a lawyer, and I would be willing to testify as much in court if anybody wanted me to be a credibility witness, a character witness to the claim that Kent Hovind taught algebra. If somebody wants to hire Kent Hovind, my recommendation would be to them, if they're planning on hiring him to be an algebra teacher, is that they absolutely go with just about anybody else. He does not seem qualified to do the job whatsoever, and I therefore doubt the claim that he ever did. And that's basically the gist of the video. Thanks.